Hey everybody, I am so excited to be here tonight in my cozy little bedroom here. I'm staying at my sister's house for a little bit, and so I have to apologize in advance. We've got a lot of gaming nephews here, so just share some valuable information with you if you are raising a child on the spectrum. So the topic tonight, oh, I think it's freezing a lot. So hi guys, hopefully you can hear me. My Wi-Fi is good and strong, so hopefully it's all right. But the topic that I want to share with you tonight, or that we're going to be discussing, and you can feel free to ask any questions, is we're going to be talking about the link between gastrointestinal symptoms and challenging behaviors for our autistic kids. I have a son on the spectrum. I've been dealing with GI issues with him for quite a long period of time. Since he was just a baby, he had a lot of trouble. So I wanted to share with you some really cool recent research and what that might mean for you as a parent parenting an autistic child. So, for those of you that don't know about gastrointestinal symptoms, those are things such as constipation, diarrhea, bloating, abdominal pain, and most research agrees that GI symptoms are much more frequent and severe in children with autism compared to their neurotypical peers. In fact, there was a recent study done at the UC. Uh, a team of researchers really saw in GI and autism. So they actually studied 255 children with autism and 129 neurotypical kids. And it was about preschool age to 3.5 years old. And the results were actually astounding. It was 47.8% of children with autism reported frequent GI symptoms, where it was only 17.8% in neurotypical kids. So we do know that GI symptoms are a lot more prevalent in children with autism. So I'd really love for you to just chime in if you're watching this. If your child has GI issues, or doesn't, just kind of write a comment, let us know. We're going to kind of gauge the comments as we go, any questions that you have. So another statistic that came out of that study that was pretty interesting was 30.6% of autistic children experience multiple GI symptoms. So it could be a combination of constipation and bloating, or abdominal pain, or diarrhea, or just pain overall in their stomach. And that was comparative to 5.4% in neurotypical children. So, again, a much bigger percent for children on the spectrum. I do want to mention that they did not find a difference between males and females with ASD. They experienced it at similar rates. And the other findings that they found from the study is that GI symptoms were significantly correlated with increased self injurious behaviors, sensory sensitivities, sleep problems, attention difficulties, and aggressive behavior. And I want to mention that was actually in both autistic children as well as neurotypical children. So there is a connection between the gut and some of these challenging behaviors, whether like your child is autistic or is not autistic. However, what they did find is that problem behaviors, although they were seen in both, the severity of the behaviors were much higher with children on the spectrum. And children on the spectrum that had multiple GI symptoms had much higher rates of self injurious behavior, somatic complaints like headaches or general pain, and reduced sleep duration. So this doesn't actually mean that all problem behaviors that you see with your autistic child is connected with GI symptoms, but it is very, very common that there is a connection between the gut and the brain and our children's behaviors. And so, again, that's not going to be for everyone, but the research does suggest that there is a correlation. Um, so, to kind of just give you a background of the GI issues and where it kind of arises from, in our gut, there is an imbalance, especially for autistic kids, or many of them, of good and bad bacteria. So, we all actually have good and bad bacteria in the gut. But when you have more bad bacteria than that good bacteria, it's often known as dysbiosis of the gut microbiota. And the negative microbes actually produce chemicals that can affect the brain function and behavior in individuals. And this is why a lot of parents or caregivers of an autistic child seek medical intervention to help alleviate these issues. And so we have that incredible research, obviously, in Autism Advocate Parenting Magazine. I'm sharing it with you now. There's some more research that we've published in there as well on another study of 405 children where they tested their microbiome from ages 1 to 2 years of age and how it significantly impacts neurodevelopment. And then in that research study, it actually compares it to autism and the makeup of found in research of autistic kids' microbiome. So it's very interesting stuff to read. How it's important to you as a parent is to really understand if there's an issue with your child and get the help and the support that you need and seek out the professionals that are able to assist you with that. I personally am not a professional that can assist you with that. I'm the executive director of Autism Advocate Parenting Magazine. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I'm a parent just like all of you. I love that there's lots of comments coming in, but I'm a parent just like you looking for information to help my son on the spectrum. And so I read the magazine along with everybody else every month, and I pull out the information that applies to my child and his journey. And then I seek out the resources to be able to address that. I wanted to mention another article. We have about 15 or 20 articles in our article directory on the premium subscription of the magazine that actually goes through the microbiome. It goes through GI issues and challenging behaviors. And we have numerous different articles from doctors and autism experts and professionals. So you can grab a lot of information there and read about it. But I wanted to highlight another one. Dr. Bradley Ferguson, he's a neuroscientist at the University of Missouri. And his team at the University of Missouri Thompson Center for Autism and Neurodevelopment Disorders found that as children with autism, as their stress levels or stress response goes up, so does the likelihood that that they have a GI disorder, and especially constipation. I hear from so many parents all the time about typically how their autistic child is often constipated, and that's actually the issue that my son has as well. So it's really interesting to see that that stress is connected to it as well, and so you always kind of want to see the underlying reasons for things and see how you can relieve that stress or what is stressing your child out to help with that. And a good example of that is something Danielle, and hopefully I say her last name right, Pero Parazio, a functional medicine consultant. She wrote a great article in the January 2022 issue of Autism Advocate Parenting Magazine. She's also an author of many, many books, and she talked about the gut-brain connection. And I'm just going to read a little excerpt for you because she puts it really simple for us in layman's terms as parents to understand. She says the microbiota and the intestinal cells communicate with the brain by inflammatory, endocrine, and neuronal signals. The communication can happen in milliseconds. Perhaps you have noticed that when you are nervous, you immediately feel like you need to go to the bathroom. That's because the gut has nerve receptors and it's connected to the brain. Both react to stress and anxiety. And so oftentimes our gut is actually referred to, if you haven't heard it before, as our second brain. There are a lot of connections that go between our gut and our brain. And especially for autistic children, it's really interesting to understand the connection more and understand how it impacts them, how it impacts their behaviors, and vice versa, how it impacts their gastrointestinal issues and the things that they're feeling. And so I think, just reading this information and understanding, um, you know, the different parts of autism and what could be affecting your child, and things that could potentially support and help them. Obviously, I'm not going to say that, fixing your microbiome is, going to have your child not have an autism diagnosis. That's not the cause of autism. There's lots of different things surrounding that. And our children are amazing and they teach us so much. So the goal is really to help them in their challenging behaviors or in the challenges that they have that affect their daily life. That is our goal as parents, to be able to help our children to be the best that they can be and to help relieve them of the struggles that they're having. And so I love to read all the different articles from these different doctors, experts, and researchers and what they can share with me, and then start implementing things that could potentially help my child. So I just want to draw your attention to that. You always want to seek out really competent professionals that serve the autism community, that are well versed. And so that's why we always seek out the best experts to write articles on these topics, so that we're getting incredible information. Um, so I think that's all I wanted to share about the gut and the brain connection. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information, some recent research that was published on it. Again, you can read so much more information if you're interested in subscribing to the magazine. We've partnered with Autism and Us, and so a good portion of each subscription goes back to Autism and Us and to their charity and to their initiatives. And then as parents, we're educated on the information. All of us here at the magazine, with the exception of admin staff and editors, we are all volunteering. And we do this because we want to access this information just as much as anybody else, so that we can help our child. Um, so I can't totally see the comments. I saw them as they were coming up, but I don't see them in a string along the side. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to re-pop them up and I'll take a look. Um, yeah, I do see um, a comment there. So sad that doctors' only answer is Miralax. Yeah, there's so many different things available to you. One of the things we're going through a number of different things that we're learning right now from these different doctors and researchers that published in the magazine, specifically for my child. And one of the things on my list is that I want to get a GI map done of my son's microbiome. And I'm really actually excited about that. They take a stool sample, and then, like, you take a stool sample for your child, they send you this whole package and everything, and then you send it in, and they break down um, your child's microbiome and what's going on. And I will mention to you, even if your child doesn't have GI issues that you know of, a lot of parents find out that their child has GI issues when they do a GI mapping, even if your child doesn't have constipation. So it's interesting to see the makeup of the gut and the bacteria that they have present. So someone said, my 17-year-old son takes about 10 to 15 minutes to urinate in the morning when he wakes up. I was told it's because of constipation, but he doesn't get constipated much. He has good bowel movement. So yeah, that's what I was saying. Sometimes it's really hard as parents for us to really understand what's going on. And you might think your child has regular bowel movements, but there actually could be other things going on in their gut that you don't know about. And I only mention that because I know of multiple parents of a child with autism that has done GI mapping. And they thought that, everything was, but they're just doing their due diligence and found that they had a really imbalanced microbiome. I have been following Arizona University study on microbiome and autism. It's amazing. It really is to read. I know a lot of us don't have a lot of time to just hop on PubMed and read all these research studies and even really understand the medical jargon. But these research studies are so important because they can really give an insight to us for things that we can take action on to do with our child. And so that's why we love to produce the research in the magazine that is written in a way that parents can understand, and that's written in an actionable way. I will mention as well, so we do all the summaries of current autism research that we publish in the magazine, and we send it to the doctors for review for that portion of the magazine. And every time we send it in, well, not every time, but a lot of times we get a lot of the doctors that write back and say, "Thank you so much. This is the most accurate depiction or representation of our research study that's ever been published." So we take pride in that and making sure that we're communicating that information to parents and in a way that you're going to understand it. I will also mention that everything in the magazine we graphically designed to help you understand the information too, because sometimes some information can be a little bit complicated. And so we make sure we graphically design pictures so that you can understand, and follow what the individual is talking about, the doctor or the expert. So I know they put up a link there. If you're interested in subscribing, you can go to www.autismadvocateparentingmagazine.com/autism and us. And if you actually use the code autism and us, all capitals, you get a huge discount on a subscription that we just don't offer to everybody out there. And that's for an annual or a premium subscription. You get an incredible discount and you get a bunch of freebies going through Autism and Us too. So when you go into your account, you see a bunch of extra surprises there that you didn't realize you would get when you sign up to grab a subscription. So I just wanted to mention that. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to type it in. I hope that information served you today. It wasn't, complete lecture on the topic, but it gives you an insight of something that you might want to research more into to see if it's something that could benefit your child. All right. I think that's it. Well, thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great start to your new year.